Hello my friends and welcome back. It's Friday. Happy Friday to you. When this is over, I'm gonna head to a bar with my friends and I'm gonna have a cold one on you and an alcohol-free one. I think you liked it when I said it last time. I'm trying to drink less, so I'm drinking a lot more alcohol-free beer. What do you think about that? We go back to Kursk offensive or invasion or incursion, whatever you wanna call it. It's just a magnificent act of God being driven by the Ukrainians. Now, Russian FSB is at a loss. It's a huge loss of face for them, and now they want to bring out their big guns. So we have a source that reports that FSB suggested to Putin this. I'll read it to you. The source reports that FSB representatives raised the issue of the need to liquidate Ukrainian bloggers. That's me. Who collect huge amount of money for FPV drones. That's me. At a meeting with the president. Thanks to their platforms and, first of all, the trust of the ordinary Ukrainians, they can quickly collect millions of dollars. Well, that's not me. I have not collected million. With 7 fundraisers, you and me, we stand right now with $750,000. Jake Bro did 1 fundraiser and went over $1 million, so that's him. In the event of liquidation, it will not be possible to quickly replace them. Audience trust is not a matter of one day, and given the real threats of their lives, their productivity will significantly decrease. It is strange that FSB talks about audience trust and building trust in people. Yes, we as military bloggers, we know that, because trust is everything. You don't have trust, nobody will listen to you, why do you do it at all? But it's the FSB who is preaching it. Do you see the irony in this? Anyway, I do have a weapons permit and I'm thinking about starting to carry my weapon now. I don't like to quote him much, but sometimes he just says, he says it in such a spicy way that I cannot help myself. I bring to you Igor Girkin. Putin is an idiot. Russia needs more manpower. The West will arm Ukraine with the weapons it needs. The war will come to Russia when German tanks are being operated by Ukrainians in Kursk. You'll understand. Igor Girkin. That was said almost a year ago. That guy sees the future, but you don't have to be very smart to see the future of Russia. You just have to think a little bit. My friends, with everything going on in Ukraine, I would like to test out the same strategies that Ukraine is using. This is why I bring to you today's sponsor, Call of War. Call of War is a free online PvP strategy game. Choose a real country to lead during World War II. Fight up to 100 other players in real time, in games that can take weeks to complete. Use many units and secret weapons to build your army. For example, tanks, planes, a nuclear bomb. Declare war on your neighbors or forge alliances with other players. Choose your own strategy. Engage in epic battles and take over the world. You can play with the same account on both PC and mobile. You can get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time. My friends, look at this map. This is NASA's fire map. So there's a satellite up there. Every time it detects a fire dot on planet Earth, it records it with this red dot. Well, now you can see where most of the explosion on the northern fronts are happening. It's not on the Ukrainian side, it's on the Russian side. Which brings us another beautiful reason why this Kursk invasion was necessary, to just bring the fighting onto the Russian soil. I remember playing Call of Duty 5 or Call of Duty, there was 1, 2, 3, Call of Duty 4 was Modern Warfare, then there was 5, which was again remake of Second World War. There was always this guy who was saying like, we'll bring the fight to their blood, their people, we'll bring the fight to German soil, like we're gonna avenge. Well, that's it. We're bringing the fight to their people, their blood, their land. Exactly how I remember it. In this war altogether, air assaults have not been made. Well, some have. For example, the very first one the Russians did to Hostomel, which failed miserably and they lost their best troops in it, 500 of them. After that, almost any of them have happened because they're not successful. Well, now Ukrainians have feeling so confident with their Kursk incursion that they initiated an air assault with choppers and supposedly with a plane, although I think this might be a rumor, but we have a video from the choppers. The enemy is conducting a large-scale helicopter landing behind our defenses in the line of LGOV. Kursk Special Forces and one air mobile brigade are reported. Ukrainian forces conducted an air assault behind enemy lines around LGOV, Kursk. Russians are still suppressing this information. Video as promised. Check this out. We don't see this image often. We only see NATO forces and Russian forces in training rehearsing these air assaults, but they don't happen because they're so risky. You can only do it if you control the skies fully and if you're pretty certain that you will take the landing area. Well, Ukrainians do control the skies in that area in Kursk, and they already own the landing area, so they could do this risky maneuver. Although in any other situation I would not vote for this. Air assaults don't have a place in this war. My friends, but I will leave the Kursk oblast now. Don't worry, I'm not going to Europe or Ukraine. I'm still being in Russia because we're going to the neighboring oblast. We're going to Belgorod oblast. Because guess what? Ukrainian forces have also crossed the border in Belgorod oblast, not only Kursk. We have a video proof of Ukrainian armed forces in Vyazovo, Belgorod region, 3 kilometers from Kolotilovka, according to Russians. Now, these two villages you see on the screen, they're in Belgorod, they're on the Russian soil, and Ukrainian troops are in the city center. They are under armed forces of Ukraine. As you can see, a babushka is just filming from his window how a whole damn squad of Ukrainian soldiers just casually walks by. And by today, Ukrainians have already moved 3 kilometers east from Sudza. Sudza is the regional capital. It is the vital railway link, highway link and supply hub. And now it is firmly under armed forces of Ukraine, and even the buffer zones are being created around it, 3 kilometers in one day. The movements of armed forces of Ukraine are still incredibly fast, although we're not talking about 10 kilometers in a day. 3 in a day is still lightning speed in military terms in this war. Ukrainian forces advanced 3 kilometers east of Sudza in Russian Kursk. The villages of Mirne, Bandarivka and Mikhailivka are now under Ukrainian control. And according to the most recent meeting of the Chief of Staff Cabinets of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, 82 settlements in the Kursk region are already under Ukrainian control. Since the beginning of the offensive, the armed forces have seized 1,150 square kilometers and advanced 35 kilometers inland. This was reported by Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi in his report to President Zelensky. And I like a little meme below this tweet: crime, Russian tanks enter Ukraine, and punishment, Ukrainian tanks enter Russia. But my friends, there is a situation unfolding that not many have talked about in the Kursk region. There is a geographical situation forming. There is a river there. Check this out. Look at this river. This white line here is Russian-Ukrainian border. So Ukrainians are on the Ukrainian side. Obviously, they control the south area of this map. They control the east area because this is where they made their incursion. And they control the west area because this is a Russian-Ukrainian border. And the north area is cut by this river. It is the same river. So this area, 700 square kilometers between the river, Ukrainian border to the west, Ukrainian border to the south, and Ukrainian units to the east, and the river to the north. This area is 700 square kilometers, and it has only 3 bridges crossing it, going to other side of the river. As you can see, these 3 red lines. Now, Ukraine has twice struck one of the bridges already. If they take out these bridges, this is almost as big of an area as they already control. This would be a walk in the park to just control this area. I'll read you a thread about this. Russians claim there was a Ukrainian strike on the bridge over the same river, Kursk region Klushkova. The damage to the bridge is minimal. Judging by the damage, it was something not bigger than a single artillery shell. Let's see if there will be further attempts to target bridges over the same river. And this is the river, this is the blast. Yeah, it looks like one artillery shell, nothing big. Cars can still use it. The bridge is fully intact right now. The bridge over the same river in Kursk region was targeted once again. 2 new holes in the middle of the bridge are visible. Light vehicles can still move. Looks like we have a new thread about the bridges. Yes, we do. As you can see, this is the second and this is the third hole. Already it's harder to move with the vehicles, but you can still do it. I would say 1 more or 2 more attacks and this bridge is unusable. To visualize the situation in Glushkova district of the Kursk region of Russia, approximately 700 square kilometers of land are surrounded from all sides. Ukrainian state border from the south and west, Ukrainian-controlled territory of the Kursk region from the east, and the 70 to 100 meter wide same river and the swamps from the north. Only 3 bridges are connecting this bit of land, one in Glushkova, second in Zbannoye, and third in Garij. If to cut one of those bridges, Russia will end up in a situation similar to what we saw on the right bank of the Kherson River, when Antonovsky Bridge and the Kakhovka Dam were damaged. Russian logistics will be possible only by ferries or pontoon bridges, which can be challenging less than a dozen kilometers from the front line, or through Korenova, which is yet controlled by the Russians, but Ukrainian forces are getting closer day by day. This situation is evolving and it's a catastrophe. If Ukraine would destroy these bridges and just attrition the Russian forces in it for half a month, for example, then taking over this area wouldn't be an issue for them, and then we would suddenly talk about 2,000 kilometers controlled of Russian territory. Now that is a big area. I've been holding myself back, but I cannot anymore. Now it's time to unleash some few memes here and there. I'll keep it serious, don't worry, but I'll sprinkle them a little bit. Now, this is priceless. This is the German tank commander of the Bundeswehr, the German army, tank unit leader, commander, analyzing the Battle of Kursk. Who would have thought we would see this again? This is the second time already German tank commanders are analyzing the Battle of Kursk. It's priceless and I love it. How do we know that Russians are desperate? Well, there are many instances. We'll go into one right now and I'll read you the thread. Hundreds of Russians who have refused to fight for various reasons, age, sickness, mental health, are reported to have been taken from a military base where they were being held and flown to Kursk, where they will likely be used in efforts to repel Ukrainian incursion. According to relatives, on 12th of August, about 6 p.m., they received a message from the men who were there that they had been suddenly called to line up, and then, without any explanation, they were put in Kamaz trucks and taken to military airfield under guard. 2 groups of around 300 people and 150 people, respectively, were reported driven away from Gamenka. The latter group ended up in a military training ground 7 kilometers from Kursk city. They took them, grabbed them like parcel, put them in and took them away, the relatives say. The men's wives are afraid that the army will throw them onto the front like meat because they are not registering anything, they're not saying anything, everything is quiet. Meaning they're not even registered to be in a war zone, they're not registered as a soldier. They're just refuseniks who refused to go, who were called up as with the partial mobilization and they didn't go. So now they're just being grabbed and sent there to clog up the front for Ukrainians. Since Russians are really struggling to form a command structure and a working logistical chain in Kursk, they're just sending meat like they always do. That's all they can do. And in this case, they're just taking the refuseniks, they're taking some prisoners, clogging up the front so Ukrainians, these guys surrender by the hundreds, and we'll go into it later. But the surrendering, as I've mentioned many times before, it takes a huge toll on the Ukrainians. You have to process these prisoners. You have to feed them. You have to guard them. You have to treat them medically. You have to guide them back to Ukraine. And if there are hundreds, thousands, that is a huge issue for Ukraine. And Russia can allow these huge losses for themselves to slow the Ukrainian advance. This is what this tactic is. To bring ourselves out of the Friday seriousness, I'll introduce to you wooden stock. It's alright. Synthetic stock. Ooh, modern. Laughing stock. Yeah, that's the way to go. British tanks crossed the border into Russia to take part of Ukraine's offensive at the Kursk Bulge. I don't know, Bulge. This is the first case of British tanks being used by Ukrainian soldiers in hostilities in the Russian Federation. I know they are Ukrainian tanks now. Now Field Marshal Olaf Scholz can rest easy again, since so far only German tanks have been fighting on Russian soil. It's so strange that German tanks are fighting in Kursk for the second time. Ooh. Well, we already also saw a video and photo of the first Challenger tank being destroyed by the Russians in Kursk. If there is war, there will be losses. So yes, first Challenger confirmed destroyed. Also, second HIMARS was now visually confirmed destroyed. Demilitarization of East Prussia, or Königsberg as they used to call it. Russia is moving troops to the Kursk region from Kaliningrad region. Lithuanian Defense Minister said, I cannot say his name, it's impossible, Laurinas Kasciunas. We even call it demilitarization of Kaliningrad, which is happening thanks to the bravery of your military, thanks to your decisions, Kasciunas said during a meeting with Zelensky. Well, it's East Prussia. It used to be a fully German land, fully German culture. Well, now it's, I don't know what to call it even, it's Russianized. Well, Kaliningrad, make it Königsberg again. Send the troops away and just send all Russians away from there. My friends, 2 days ago, Ukrainians in Kursk captured the headquarters of a Russian unit. And I kid you not, they arrived in a very good mood. And this is the video with subtitles, what they do in that headquarters. And there is a red phone. What are they trying to force the stereotypes? There's a red phone in the headquarters, straight to Putin, straight to the field marshal. Well, let's see what they say. Faster, faster. Tank is on this way. Give other coordinates. Give artillery. We asked for 2 tanks. We asked for 2 tanks. 2 tanks. They're asking for 2 tanks. Grab a pen and write it down. I am. It's already written down. Gerasimov. They're not picking up. Шойгу, Gerasimov, where's my ammo? This is, I think they're kidding now, but this would be an active, real, truthful representation of how Russian headquarters lead their troops, I think. It is what we call bardak. Now, my friends, I'll read you Russian Telegram chatter because they're surprised that Ukrainian army is using the same tactics that they are using. You know, it's popcorn material. Grab your popcorn. Yesterday in Ukraine, at their headquarters, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the SBU were instructed to prepare a humanitarian plan for the occupied territory of the Kursk region. We tried to figure this out a bit. As it turned out, the Ministry of Internal Affairs includes the police, the National Guard, border guards, the emergency service, analogues to our Ministry of Emergency Situations, and the Migration Service. That is, we can assume that the enemy's Ministry of Internal Affairs will administer the occupied territory and even distribute passports. Perhaps this is the humanitarian plan? Well, referendum is not far away. They exactly copy our actions in the liberated territories. Ooh la la, king of the castle, king of the castle. Very nice. It's like Ukrainians are just doing exactly what has been done to them by Russians. Who would have thought you can behave this way? Remember, my friends, about 4 or 5 days ago, there was the biggest single attack on a Russian convoy throughout this war. In Kursk region, a convoy about 10 trucks filled to the brink with conscripts was struck with HIMARS, cluster munitions, you know, the ones that spread these tungsten balls of freedom, hundreds of thousands of them, flying through the air, spreading freedom. Well, they made minced meat. They made fertilizer out of the Russians. Up to 1,000 men. Now, this happened again. I kid you not. This is not according to the Ukrainians. This is according to Russians. So you know it's true when they are saying it happened. Another Russian convoy got roasted. Koronevo, crests means ahoy or personnel. Crests mean personnel. And there is footage. Exactly the same thing happened near Koronev as near Rilsk. Rilsk is where the last time it happened. There is no worse disaster in the war than an idiot commander. The enemy does not forgive mistakes. Along the convoy march again. This is I hope the Crests don't have any personnel. The Crests won't have it, but the locals will roll out. Why are you posting this to make the Crests happy? About this very same hit on the column, because they drove in a column, because that's all the Russian military does. They just fill the trucks to the brink with meat that is still alive, and they just pack it in a very tight column. That's what they used under Kyiv with the nuclear column. That's what happened in Rilsk. And now, columns. The columns require executions today. Whoever gave the order to move in columns in the observation zone of the chopper, and accordingly, the defeat by HIMARS is not just an asshole, but should also be sentenced according to laws of war. Today, this is an assault squad. What rank private and assault squad? Those who themselves command the movement in the column, being in the column itself, are no less of an asshole. But often you can't send him into a storm because there is no one to send him. Although assholes often survive, and then they also get positions with medals for surviving. So this is a guy who knows what happens. The column was shot to pieces today, actually, just annihilated. An entire concentrated column of Russian equipment and manpower. We're talking hundreds and tens of pieces of equipment. It was destroyed because some commander ordered so close to the front line to move closer very fast right now, and then the troops had nothing else to do than just to form a column and go. Because the order came from upstairs. Go now. Of course, you're not going to argue. You have to do it. Don't wait. Don't spread out. Go now. And they will go in a cluster column, and a cluster column will get cluster effed. Wherever in the Russian military there are losses, there is also blame shifting. Somebody always has to take the responsibility. Russian sources say that criminal cases are being prepared for Russian generals due to failure of Kursk region's defense. The cleansing of the Russian Ministry of Defense, which started after the dismissal of Sergei Shoigu, may continue with the new series of arrests of high-ranking law enforcers who failed in the defense of the Kursk region. It is reported that Gerasimov, head of the general staff, has fallen into Putin's disfavor. Oh no, that is so sad. Well, 15 billion rubles were allocated from the start of the full-scale invasion to build out the entire defensive line of the Kursk and Belgorod oblasts and Ukrainian border. It was built out, but about 10 billion of those rubles were pocketed by local Russian generals. In 5 billion, they just built out 2 petty trench lines and filled them with conscripts who didn't know what to do and surrendered by the hundreds. And with that 10 billion rubles, you can actually build yourself a little nice villa. You can use the same very conscripts to build it for free for you. So I guess they're going to hunt down those generals now. Doesn't fix anything. The corruption is in the system. Putin itself has created this system of corruption. Now it's very funny that he will find generals who are corrupt when it is him who is forcing this system to work like that. Yesterday, my friends, was the day of the Kursk invasion where most Russian prisoners of war were taken. 170 in one day. Now we have photos and videos of it. I cannot show them in YouTube, unfortunately. My last video got age restricted, meaning that most of you will not see it. If you want to see it, go to my channel and specifically click on the last video, because YouTube algorithm will not send out an age restricted video, but there I showed prisoners of war. In this one, I can't. Well, yesterday, 170 Russians surrendered in Kursk Oblast. But now, my friends, I would like to read you a thread about what would be the outcome of the Kursk invasion, and there is no positive parallel universe or this one where it ends good for Russia. It's already a catastrophe and it's going worse. How I believe the offensive in Kursk will unfold. As we know, the Russians have started digging trenches 45 kilometers away from the border with Ukraine, and you can see the trenches are being dug about 15 to 20 kilometers from where Ukrainian forces are right now in Kursk. They're digging a new defensive line, and there are photos, satellite photos to prove it, which clearly shows the area of penetration into Kursk territory. If these fortifications are breached and the cities of Kursk and LGOV are captured by the Ukrainians, the situation will become disastrous for Russia, which will have to completely destroy them in order to retake them. As we know, Russia cannot retake a city without destroying it. That's what they did with Mariupol, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, all other cities. Kursk and LGOV and Sudza are very important local cities of Kursk oblast. If Ukrainians capture these cities, Russia will have to destroy these cities to the ground if they want to recapture them. And that is very bad press, even internally. 3 Ukrainian brigades are advancing towards the area around the nuclear power plant, while a 4th is maneuvering towards Belgorod. Interestingly, the Ukrainian political military leadership has announced the formation of 10 new brigades, none of which are part of the forces currently in Kursk region. If these brigades are sent to Kursk to participate in the operation, then we can certainly say that the front is shifting into Russia. Well, it already has shifted into Russia. The northern front, the Kharkiv front, only east and south the fighting is in Ukraine. On the north, as we saw on the artillery fire map, they're bombarding on the Russian territory. Their blood, their people, their land, the Call of Duty 5 theme. Forcing Putin to either withdraw troops currently fighting in Ukraine or to declare a general mobilization with associated risk. We get back to the general mobilization, which is the worst outcome for Putin. This would destabilize Russia internally so bad, it would send the ruble into a full crash, stock market into a full crash. It would, again, start riots, perhaps strikes on the work positions, maybe military factory strikes. It would put a huge pressure on the Russian army, since they're not really good with mobilizing huge amount of people and guiding them and giving them, the whole process is so bad. The last partial mobilization was a massive failure, but Putin never wants to do that. However, Ukraine is the one which is currently moving, whilst Russia is clearly outmaneuvered and unable to properly respond. Expect more and more attacks on Russian military, industrial and energetic infrastructure in the days to come, because, as I previously stated, Ukraine has become a master in playing the logistic game. And how do we know this is unfolding exactly the way I just read to you? Well, Kremlin is urgently recruiting trench diggers for Kursk region via Avito, a Russian version of Craigslist. They promise to pay 1,500 to 2,100 per month. Now, this is a Russian private salary in a war zone. If they pay the same salary for trench diggers in Russia, that means they're pretty desperate. And if they don't finish this before Ukrainians arrive, or even if they do, it doesn't matter, Ukrainians will overrun these positions. Then it's mobilization for Russia, which is death for Putin, or it's huge amount of territory controlled by Ukraine. And to end this video with a jolly good note, I will present to you a Ukrainian buggy of freedom with an MG3, a derivative of the previous grandfather MG42 of the Germans. We used this very same MG3 in Estonian army. I've shot it, it's beautiful, and now it's mounted on a buggy and once again shooting at the Russians like its grandfather, the MG42, and it's speeding towards Kursk nuclear power plant to give some freedom to it. I think this is a very good vibe to end it. But hey, wait, don't go, because we have to butcher some names. Alright, my friends, you ready? For the last time this week, I bring to you the most fanatical and loyal and friendly and best and beautiful supporters of this channel, monthly members of Buy Me a Coffee. Someone. Damn, there's a lot of Someonas there. James Hall, Kevin Patrick More, Pontus Andres Pius, now that's a fully Estonian name, Adam Frachs, Robert Thomas, Daniel Turner, Richard Spruill. Thank you to these monthly members. You are the reason, you make it possible for me to do what I do in such tempo. I'll keep doing it. You'll see another video on Monday where I bring to you the newest Ukrainian updates and Kursk updates. So until Monday, my friends, Slava Ukraini and bye-bye. Call of War is a free online PvP strategy game that takes place during World War II. Choose your own strategy, engage in epic battles, and take over the world. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 13,000 gold and 1 month premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time. Click the link in the description, choose your country, and fight your way to victory.